Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Haven't been on here for a while. We've been kind of busy. I wanted to take the opportunity tonight to just do a little bit of a vlog and talk to you guys about my experience buying my first supercar, my 2006 Lamborghini SE. And if you're looking to buy one, I just want to tell you guys a little bit of do's and don'ts and how I went about buying my car. I've been wanting one of these cars ever since I was a kid. I saw my first Lamborghini at the Autorama in Houston. I grew up in Houston, and we went down to this big auto show down at the Astro Arena. That's next to the Astrodome. And there was a white Countach there that a gentleman was showing. And this is back in the probably early 80s, right? Probably even early, late 70s, probably 79, 80, around there. And there was a white Countach there, and the gentleman that owned it was showing it off, right? And as a kid, I was like, young kid, I forget how old I was back then, probably 10 years old around that time, kind of dating myself, right? And I looked at the car, right, and it blew my mind. I saw the scissor doors, and I saw the wings, and I mean, it looked like an airplane on wheels, right? So the gentleman was really cool. He was letting people sit in it, right? And I'm just a kid, right? And he says, hey, jump in there, So I get in the car, right? And I'm just, man, my mind is just blown, right? As a 10-year-old kid, I've always loved cars. I was always reading magazines like Hot Rod Magazine and whatnot. I was always in the library, right? Looking for anything car related, right? I used to like that. And I used to like monsters, right? Vampires and Dracula and, things like that, as most kids do, right? So, I go to the library when I go back to school, right, and I start looking for information on Lamborghini, right, and I found a book in there that basically told the story, right, of how Lamborghini was created. And real quick on that, basically Lamborghini was a tractor builder in Italy, and he lived in the same town where Ferraris were made, and he was successful, making Lamborghini tractors. And he runs over to Ferrari in the same town to the factory and buys a car, right, for himself to enjoy. And he starts having problems with it, takes it back to Ferrari. I think he was having transmission issues with it. And, they weren't very nice to him, They basically told him he didn't know what he was doing. He kind of gave some suggestions to Ferrari on what they need to do to fix the transmission issues. And they didn't want to hear it, right? So the owner of Ferrari basically told him, look, you need to go back to your tractor factory and you need to continue building tractors and leave, building sports cars to us, right? So that obviously didn't sit well with Lamborghini, right? And he went back, and there is a movie about this, right? So he goes back and he builds a factory, and he hires coach builders and he hires designers. And they build a car, right? And that car was the Lamborghini Miura, right? And that car was first shown at a big auto show in Europe, right? And beautiful car. It was declared the most beautiful car, built. Won all kinds of awards, right? And he did that just because Ferrari wouldn't help him, right? Because Ferrari basically told him, leave sports cars building to us. Cool story, always stuck in my mind. I always remember that story. That story basically inspired me to where I'm at today, right? It always told me, don't let someone tell you can't do something, right? And always go out of your way to prove them wrong, right? The next time I saw a Lamborghini was on TV in 1981, I believe, a movie called The Cannonball Run, which is a crazy movie. If you can find it, it's out there on YouTube. It's out there on a bunch of different streaming services. But the Cannonball Run highlighted a black Lamborghini with the front wing, the rear wing. It had antennas on it, beautiful black car. And the very first start of the movie is that car. And it's being chased by Trans Ams, right? And these Trans Ams have like the turbo style hood on them, but they're police cars. Again, that's the I think that was the first time I actually saw a Lamborghini in action, right? Where I actually heard it, right? And I'll never forget the sound of that V12.
What do you do when you turn it off?
Amazing, when you hear that V12 just rip, right? My car being a Gallardo is only a V10, but the sound that this car puts out, I mean, you don't even care about the radio. All you care about is that sound, that V10 sound behind you, right? That's just amazing. So that's what inspired me, right, to buy my own car. But being a muscle car guy, I've always owned muscle cars. Ever since I was a kid, my first car was a Nova, growing up in Houston. And then most recently, you know, for the last 10 or 15 years, you know, I've been buying all kinds of different muscle cars and building them and working on them and whatnot. And but in the back of my mind, I always had that want and that need to buy my own Lamborghini, right? And, you know, I just, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I tried a few times, but things just fell through. It just felt like it wasn't the right moment. This last time though, and actually the path that I took started like around November, September of last year, where I started kind of really planning it out. So first thing we did, we went to Houston last year and we rented a Huracan, right? Because, you know, that was the newer model at the time, you know, and kind of like in my budget, you know, those were, you know, you can pick up a Huracan around the 150, 160 range, 170 range. So that was kind of in my budget, right? So I went and test drove one. I went and rented one at a place in Houston. I'm sorry, in Dallas. And we went and took it out for a drive. They let us rent it for 24 hours. And unfortunately, it just didn't work. I was too tall. I was too big. My head was up against the headliner. You know, it just wasn't a comfortable car for me, you know. When I would come to a stoplight, you know, I had to kind of like duck down and try to look at the light. You know, I couldn't see the traffic signal. So I was very disappointed. I said, man, this is crazy, right? I wish I was shorter, right? But I'm not. I'm 6'2". And these cars, obviously, in Italy, were not built for large American guys, right? So, you know, I was like, oh, God, you know, I just can't give up on this dream, right? I mean, it's a dream I've had. And so I was fortunate enough to find a Gallardo. And, man, I took a measuring tape to it. I measured the roof line. I measured the windshield. And I thought, you know, this might work. You know, this might actually work for me. So then what I did is I started looking around for cars, right? Before that, I had owned a C6 Corvette, and the C6 Corvette also kind of felt like the Huracan. You know, it kind of felt the same. I actually tried a C8 Corvette. You know, we went and tried a C8 Corvette also, and it just wasn't right either. The fit just wasn't right. But then I sat in a Gallardo, and lo and behold, it was perfect, you know. Side room, I mean, headroom, my hair didn't touch the roof. The windshield goes back far enough where you can come up to a light and you can see the traffic signal, right? So that's something to think about, right? About how you're gonna drive the car, and, you know, how is it gonna feel, right, when you're driving it. So I started looking for a Gallardo because I felt, well, that's it, right? And I actually, you know, like I said, when I found that car and I got in it, and the owner of the dealership let me sit in the car, that car was already sold. So I didn't ask about it. I mean, they were just waiting for the shipper to pick it up. But he let me turn it on. You know, he let me fire it up, and man, I heard the exhaust and everything, and it was just amazing. It reminded me, and that car was a black Gallardo, so it reminded me of the Cannonball Run movie, right? So anyway, I had some muscle cars, right? We have this green Chevelle. We had this green Chevelle called Turtle. We sold the green Chevelle. We had a Chevy, an old classic Chevy, 53 Chevy with an LS engine. We sold that car. And then I sold my blue 1972. Is it an SS? Is it not an SS? If you guys have seen that video where we did a video on debating whether that 1972 big block car was a big block or not. So it ended up not being a real big block car. It turned out to be a small block car, but you know, that's another story, right? So anyway, we sold that car as well. So I found myself again with enough money to make a decision, right, on whether it was the right time to buy a Lamborghini or not, right? So I started looking. I was looking at other cars. Actually, I'm always on Marketplace looking for stuff, looking for cars, you know, to buy. Some for the channel, some just for myself, for my bucket list of cars that I have. And then this car came around, right? and I love the color. Actually, I had never even had seen a blue one like this. And I said, man, the price was right. The story was right. I had always watched this guy named Ed Bolian on VinWiki. It's a YouTube channel called VinWiki. And he gave a lot of pointers on how to buy exotics, right? Whether it's a Ferrari, a McLaren, a Lamborghini. On that channel, he gave some on that YouTube channel, he gave pointers, but mainly Lamborghinis, because Ed Bolian was a big Lamborghini dealer. He worked at a dealership, and at one point, I think he stated that he was actually the #1 Lamborghini seller in the country, right? So everybody that sold Lamborghinis knows Ed Bolian, right? So I watched his video on how to do it, and there was a couple of pointers he said on there, right? One of the things was that if you've never financed a $100,000 car, you're gonna have a real hard time finding someone to finance it for you, right? Because that's the way the banks work. If you've never financed a $100,000 car, it's gonna be hard to get there, right? Another pointer he gave was, try to buy a car with no stories, right? Clean Carfax, good maintenance records, things like that, right? No stories is the main thing, right? Just make sure it's a clean car, clean Carfax, good record keeping, right? Low miles if you can, right? Everybody tries to buy them like 12,000, 10,000 miles. I don't like that, because to me, this car's a 2006, so I'm a big believer that you have to drive cars, otherwise the gaskets dry up, the seals dry up, the cars start to leak, the hoses dry up, things like that. So a car is like a human being. You have to keep it in motion, right? Especially a Lamborghini exotic like this. You have to keep them in motion, right? Otherwise you start having issues with them, and then you got to maintain them properly, right? So those are some of the pointers that Ed Bolian gave, and I used that when I looked at this car, right? I checked all that. So I contacted the gentleman that was selling it. I told him I was going to go ahead and go with the deal. This was like on a Friday. So he said, okay, he sent me a little bit of information on the car, and I said, let's do this, So Monday comes around. The weekend went by, Monday comes around, and I backed out, man. I got cold feet. I don't know. I just thought about it too hard, and I just got cold feet, and I called him, and I said, hey, man, I said, I'm so sorry. I said, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this after all. But here, you know what? I sent him $500, man, through Cash App, just for his troubles, right? So I was very disappointed, right, in myself. And then I talked to my wife, and she said, you know what? She goes, you've been talking about this forever. You've never shut up about this. You've always talked about your Lamborghini. Everybody knows about it. You're always talking about it. She said, you're right there. Like, you're at the door. She says, all you got to do is open it, cross that threshold and just do it, right? So I said, you know what? You're right, man. I said, I'm just going to go for it, let the cards lie, where they may. The card checked off all the boxes. I said, let me just go for it. So I contacted the guy again, and he says, you know what? He goes, I've got a deal working with some other guys, but if it falls through, I'll let you know. So I said, okay, I'll keep looking, right? He messaged me again. He says, hey, man, you know what? Let's do it, right? Let's just go ahead and go for the deal, right? So one of the things that Ed Bolian said, and a couple of other people that own cars like this said, is try to stay away from someone that is an owner, and that the car has a lien on it, right? Because that's going to be a hassle. Try to stay away from that, especially if you're not a dealer, right? And I'm not a dealer. So unfortunately, the car had a lien on it. The guy had a small loan on it. So I've worked with that before. I've helped guys out like that before. And I've actually sold a few cars with liens on them. When I had my Bandit Trans Am, that car had a small lien, had about a $20,000 lien on it. We sold that car on eBay, and the gentleman paid for the car. But I did let him know. I said, look, the car has a lien. I said, I got to pay off the $20,000 balance. I said, as soon as the title comes in, I'll sign it and I'll next day air it to you. The guy said, yeah, man, go for it, right? There's a gentleman in Florida that bought my Bandit Trans Am. So, guy's name was Rocco, real cool guy. So that deal worked out great. You know, I paid off the car, you know, and that was that. The next car I did that with was my 57 Chevy. That car also had a lien on it. Same situation. We paid it off. And then the guy, you know, got me the title. And then when I sold it, I had a lien on the car myself, right? So it was a small lien. I always do my financing through JJ Best. So same situation. Ryan, the guy that bought my 57 Chevy, that car's in Colorado now. Colorado. No, I don't remember exactly where that car is right now. But anyway, he paid for the car. I paid for the car. I paid my bank. They sent me the title. I next day aired it to him. Done, right? So it was the same situation with this car, right? I didn't want to fly. This car was in Virginia, so I didn't want to fly to Virginia. I didn't want to hassle with any of that stuff. I just wanted to do the deal like I've done on all my other purchases. I'll pay for it. Ship me the car. We're good to go. So anyway, we worked out a deal. We did a bank-to-bank. I sold all my other cars, so I had a good bucket of money, right? But I also knew that I wanted to have some money left over to buy some other cars, right? I didn't want to just dump all my money into one car and then start to have to build another, bucket again to buy another car, right? So we did a bank-to-bank situation. I sent him the money so he could pay off his loan. And then my bank sent a power of attorney for him to sign. He sent all that to his bank. His bank sent all that to my bank. My bank, we closed on the loan on the car, and then they were sending me the title, right? Unfortunately, through all this time, and this is why they told you don't do this, don't buy the car from someone that has a lien, was because unfortunately the guy I bought the car from, he had a real hard work situation where he kind of worked a real weird schedule. He worked like Thursdays to Tuesdays. So I don't work weekends, right? So if I'm going to go anywhere, if I'm going to travel anywhere, it has to happen on the weekends, right? So anyway, getting the paperwork back and forth just was crazy, right? We started the process of buying the car like around, probably mid-June. And just the paperwork back and forth, and then his work schedule, and I gotta FedEx something to you overnight, and you gotta sign it, and you're trusting somebody to do all this, right? And at some point, there was nothing for about 2 weeks, and he's got my money, and he's got my car, right? So things were getting pretty crazy. So fortunately, right after 4th of July, around there, we got all the paperwork taken care of. I got my paperwork. He got his paperwork. My bank said, the deal's funded. We're good to go. Now it was time to schedule the shipping of the car, right? And that was a whole other mess. Around that time, I was reading all these stories online of these cars getting stolen, right? Matter of fact, there was a McLaren that got stolen. The dealer, the gentleman bought the car. The dealer was supposed to ship him the car. They made arrangements with a shipper they had used before. The shipper picks up the car makes it to Atlanta. The shipper gets a call from dispatch and says, hey, drop the car off at a gas station in Atlanta. The dude goes to the gas station and drops the car. The car gets picked up by another shipper, and then the car disappears. It even had a GPS on it, and the car disappeared. So I'm reading all these stories, man, and I'm freaking out, right? I'm like, man, So I called Reliable, and I'll, share a picture here. It's that company that has the big orange trucks, and they transport exotics all over the country, right? So I called Reliable, and they were about $3,000 to ship the car. Unfortunately, it was going to be like 3 months, man, to get the car. I'm like, what? Like that's not going to work, 3 months. And then plus I have to let the car sit at this gentleman's house, for 3 months. I couldn't do that to him. So I go to this other company called U-Ship, which I've used before for some cars and actually for car parts. So I go to U-Ship, and I get some quotes. U-Ship, the way they work, you put in your vehicle, and then you start getting quotes, right? You start getting bids, right? So I went for the highest bid because I want to make sure I get the best service. But then I start reading reviews on these companies, man, and they're terrible, right? All these companies all start having horrible reviews, right? So I rolled the dice. I went with one company. A couple of weeks went by, and they just could not find anybody to go get the car. It's got to go from Virginia to Texas. And the way shippers work, they want to have loads going both ways, right? They want to have a load. If they're going to come down to Texas, they want to have a load going back. Or if not to Virginia, at least somewhere else, right? That's the way they make their money. So that falls through. I contact another company. And again, because of this gentleman's really weird work schedule, we had a real short timeline. We literally had 3 days to get to him. We had like Tuesday to Thursday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If we couldn't get the car picked up in that little window of time, it wasn't going to happen, right? So I start talking to this other company, and they tell me, hey, give us $500 more, and we guarantee you that we will get the car. I said, okay, let's do it. So I paid them another $500 on top of what they were already charging me, right? So, which was over like $2,000, right? So they dropped the ball. They were supposed to pick up the car on Thursday morning. This gentleman had to be back at work Friday morning, and I think he flies to where he works, so he had to catch a flight Friday morning. So all day Thursday, I'm on the phone with them, hey, and then he's calling me too. He's like, hey, is this gonna happen? Is this gonna happen? I've been here all day. I'm frustrated, and I'm waiting. So this company, apparently their truck broke down. They start telling me they're gonna sub the work to somebody else, and oh man, I'm already thinking the car's gonna go missing. By this time the car's insured already, so I'm really not too worried, but still, it's a hassle. So I reach out to a company, I think out of Oklahoma, that sells exotics. I just start Googling, right? And I think I saw this company in a YouTube video with Daily Driven Exotics. If you've ever followed them, I saw where they were at that shop. So I reached out to them, and they gave me a list of names. I said, hey, yeah, go with these guys. They were really cool, And then they said, look, if you can't find anybody, we'll work with you and we'll get you the car, which was really cool of them, right? I mean, they don't know me, right? But they said, yeah, we'll help you out. Fortunately, they gave me the phone number to a guy named Luis out of the DFW area, out of Dallas. And I'll drop the guy's card here, right? So the guy has a shop called, a towing company called Sucios, right? And if you're Hispanic or no Spanish, sucio means dirty, right? This cannot be happening, right? But I talked to Luis, and Luis is awesome, man. He's like, hey, you know what? I just happen to be heading to Virginia to go drop off a car for a friend. We weren't going to take the hauler, but hey, man, if you give us the load, it'll work out even better. We'll take the car in the hauler. We'll go drop off the car where it needs to be dropped off, and then we'll pick up your car, and then we'll have it back to you, And these guys were awesome, man. If you need anything towed, if you need anything moved, especially an exotic, definitely call Luis at Sucios, man. I called him on Tuesday. They were on the road Wednesday. Thursday, I had the car back home. 3 days, maybe 2.5 days. Who does that, And his prices were reasonable, amazing. And the trailer they brought, very professional, just great, So then, I get the car and everything, I'm happy, the car's here, but you got to understand, you're talking already, late August by the time I got the car. I'm burnt out, the thrill of buying my dream car has passed, At this point, I'm just so frustrated, I got the car. I told the guy, just drive it in the shop, man. Just drive it in the garage, I love the car, but I'm just, I'm burnt out on this whole situation. I'm already thinking about selling the car. You know, I'm already thinking like, you know, this was a bad idea. I shouldn't have done this, you know. So the car arrives. I take it for a drive, man. I go out to a back road, and I've been watching a lot of videos on how to drive these cars, right? So I kind of knew what I was doing. And the car was amazing, man. Everything just came back, you know, all that stuff when I was a kid, you know, everything came back, man. Just came rushing back, you know, the sound of the engine, you know, the car has a stereo with Apple Play, you know, it's an upgraded stereo that's been put in it. But I didn't even turn that on, man. I just took it out to a wide open road back where I live. You know, there's some empty back roads, and I just took it out there, man. And I let it rip, man. I shifted through the gears, and man, that V10 just screamed. You know, I think these things have like a 9,000 red line, and that did it, man. I was like, oh man, this is just, you know, everything I had hoped for. You know, everything I had dreamed about was this car. You know. And again, I've been working on this since I was 10 years old, right? So yeah, you know, that's the stuff I went through, right? But I wasn't done. We weren't done, you know? So my bank sends me the title, and they say, hey, get the car registered. Make sure you put our name on there as a lien holder, and then send the title back to us, you know? Okay, you know, so I get the title. I go down to the registration office to register the car, down to the Department of Motor Vehicles, and I didn't even realize the title's not signed by anybody. It's a blank title. It's a good title, but it's blank, you know. So they tell me we can't do anything with this, you know. You have to send it to the previous owner, have him sign it. Oh, and here's this form too. It's a 130U form. If you're from Texas and you've transferred a vehicle, the 130U form is the form we use to transfer vehicles. Send him this form and send him the title and have him sign it, and then come back. Man, you know, I'm like, you know, okay, it is what it is. I contacted the gentleman again. I said, hey man, I gotta send you the title. You know, Texas doesn't want to register the car. You know, I'm just trying to get the car out from under your name, and I'm trying to get it in my name, you know, and all this other stuff. So he says, okay, you know, I'll be home on such and such date. Again, the whole work schedule thing, right? So I put in an envelope in an envelope, right? And that envelope has a shipping label. All he's got to do is receive the FedEx package, sign the title, sign the 130U form, get the other envelope out, pop it in there, and just put it in a Dropbox and send it back to me, right? And I think I did second day air on everything, right? So he gets it. I send him a picture from FedEx that says he's received it at home. He says, yes, I got it. And then I don't hear anything for like a week, you know. I'm like, oh man, you know. And I'm not the type of person to be bothering people, right? I kind of just, you know, I'm chill, right? I kind of just wait it out. And after about a week, man, I said, hey bro, I said, what's up, man? You know, I said, I need my title, dude. I want to register this car, you know. So he says, okay, man, let me do it. You know, again, work schedule, you know, that was the issue. He was at work. So I get it finally. I go and I get the car registered in my name. You don't even want to know what I paid in taxes on this car. It's literally enough to buy another car is what I paid in taxes to register this car. But, you know, I wanted it, so you got to deal with that. So, you know, I wanted to make this video, but I mean, I was holding my breath this whole time because I wanted to make sure that I had the title. The car is now mine, and I'm happy to report the car is now mine. It's got Texas plates on it. It's got a Texas sticker on the windshield. You know, the whole 9 yards. It's done, you know. The DMV said they're gonna send the title back to the lien holder, to the bank. So, you know, and I'll receive a notification when that happens. So that's it. It's done, right? But yeah, you know, thinking about it, going back, would I have done it different? Yeah, you know, I should have just gone through a dealer, you know, and that's what I want you guys to think about. If you're gonna buy a car like this, an exotic, or if you're gonna pull the trigger on a Lamborghini, try to go through a dealer, man. You know, don't put yourself in the same situation that I did. You know, I bought and sold cars so many times that I thought it was that same thing, you know, and it just was not. It was totally different, right? So yeah, you know, that's the advice I can give you. You know, if you're gonna do it, find one at a dealership, you know, but still make sure everything is good to go. You know, make sure that the car's got a good history. Make sure it's got a clean Carfax. You know, make sure it's got all the maintenance records. And if you're worried about these cars, right now is a good time because honestly the prices are down on these cars, especially on the Gallardo, right? The Gallardos were made from 2004 to 2014, and then the Huracan started coming out. So, you know, right now is the time. I've seen them in the 80s, 90s, 100s. The Superleggera, which is the lightweight version of this car, is a little bit more expensive. And then if you get a manual, a 6-speed manual, those are more expensive as well. This is an automatic, but it's a paddle shifted automatic. But it still has a clutch. It's a real weird setup called an E-gear. But, you know, that's the design that this car came with. And again, you know, if you're going to buy a manual, manuals can go for as much as 150 to 160 for a clean car, right? But yeah, the only thing I can tell you, like I said, is, you know, get a good clean Carfax, you know, make sure the maintenance records are there for the car. Don't be surprised if if you find that the cars had multiple owners, because they just, you know, these are cars that a lot of guys want, and then they get it and then they sell it, you know, and I may do the same, you know. I'm going to keep it as long as I can. But you know, if the market changes, you know, I bought the car at a real good price where I don't see the car going any further down than what it's at right now. But you know, you never know, man. I still have other cars in my bucket list. This is the main one though. I definitely skipped a bunch of cars to get to this car because there are other cars that I wanted to get, you know, one of those being a 67 fastback Mustang, like the one from the movie, you know, what is it with Steve McQueen, Bullet, right? So that's another car that's on my bucket list, right? But like I said, I jumped a bunch of cars to get to this car, right? So this is the top of the heap. Odd cars. I mean, I've always wanted to buy a Mad Max Police Interceptor, you know, which over $100,000 for those cars. I don't think I'll ever buy one, but you know, you never know, right? If one comes on the market, you know, I might pull the trigger on one of those. You know, movie cars, right? We all love movie cars, General Lee's and Night Riders and the car from Gone in 60 Seconds, you know, the Eleanor, you know, we all love those cars, right? But this car was different. You know, this car was, you know, a dream for a kid, right? And the dream's being achieved. You know, it is exactly what I wanted. You know, we've added new wheels to the car. We've added the wing, the Superleggera wing to the car. And, you know, I'm just going to enjoy it, man. I'm going to do some maintenance on it. I might take it to Lamborghini up in Houston and have them go through the car just to make sure it's got good maintenance records. If you do find one that's got a salvage title, don't be scared. These cars, for, you know, because they're so expensive, just a fender bender, a tiny little fender bender on one of these cars will make it a salvage title car. You know, I've seen these cars where somebody has dinged a door and automatically it's a branded car, you know. So just make sure you do your research, you know, on that. On the financing, you know, if you've never financed anything over $100,000, you can get there if you give a lot of money down, you know. If you just come in with a lot of cash, you know, the banks will help you out, you know. There's several banks out there that will help you. There's Lightstream, there's JJ Best, there's PenFed. There's a lot of different banks that will finance exotics. All you gotta just go to Google and just Google banks that finance exotics, you know, and it'll give you a list. Or do you use AI now, right? Just, you know, hey, you know, ChatGPT, give me a list of, you know, banks that finance exotics, and they'll give you a list. But don't be afraid, don't be scared. These cars are amazing. The only thing is, again, good maintenance records. And then these cars do have a very specific schedule of maintenance that you have to follow. This car has hit all the maintenance schedules that it needs to hit. So that's one of the reasons I went with this car, right? Because it did everything for me. You know, it had everything that I needed it to have. But anyway, don't forget, you know, if you want to reach out, if you have any questions, you know, any comments, we read all the comments. You know, I hope you guys have enjoyed the story. Again, a little bit different, right? Mainly because, you know, this is the only car we have right now. We do have another car that's on this side that we'll talk about more on another video. You know, we'll do another video on the purchase of this other car. But for right now, I just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about the Lamborghini. This is not going to be a Lamborghini channel, right? I don't intend to do a lot of content with it. Most of the time, you'll probably just, you know, see it in the background up on the lift. Because again, we are muscle car guys. You know, we're hot rod guys. You know, so that's kind of where we're gonna stay on that side, right? We're gonna stay in our lane. We're not gonna go to the exotic side. You know, so this is just the one car that I wanted, right? So anyway, again, Texas Drag Racing Video is the YouTube channel. If you follow us on our other social media, TexasDragRacing.com on Facebook. We have about 76,000 people on that channel that follow us. So, you know, if you guys would like, come over. We have Instagram. We're just Texas Drag Racing on Instagram. And then we have TikTok, and it's just Texas Drag Racing on TikTok, right? So if you guys want to come over, join us on our other social media. And YouTube does not have a DMs service, right, where you can just DM us. So, but if you do want to DM us, you know, you can contact us either through TexasDragRacing.com on Facebook. You can contact us through Instagram, and I think you can message through TikTok as well, right? So that's the best way to get a hold of us if you have any questions, right? So anyway, video's been long enough. I've been talking too much, and again, thanks again for everything. Thanks again. We have a little over 600 subscribers now. I really appreciate it. Like I said, we've been around 15 years. It's not a lot of subs, but I love every one of you, man. And I appreciate every one of you. And I make these videos because I know that I have these people that follow me. I have you guys that follow me. You know, no matter how crazy or how dumb we are, you know, you guys are there for us. So we really, really, really do appreciate it, right? So anyway, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you guys on the next video.